story. When a man grows old and his balls grow cold, and the tip of his prick turns blue, and it bends in the middle like a one-string fiddle, why, he can tell you a tale or two. So fill up your glass and sit down your ass, and a tale to ye I'll tell of Dead-Eyed Dick and Mexican Pete, and of a harlot named Eskimo Nell.
Yes! Yes!
Now when Dead-Eyed Dick and Mexican Pete set out in search of fun, it's Dead-Eyed Dick with the mighty prick, and Pete, he carries a gun. Now Dead-Eyed Dick and Mexican Pete were panning out Dead Man's Creek, and such was their luck that they'd had no fuck for nigh on half a week. Oh, a moose or two, and a caribou, and a longhorn cow or so. But for the lordly prick of Dead-Eyed Dick, that tale was mighty slow. Dick split a rock with his raging cock and shouted, "I need a lay." So do or dare, this horny pair set forth on their way, hot with lust and trail dust for a Rio Grande watering hole. Mexican Pete with gun in hand and Dead-Eye a swinging his pole. Then away they blazed on their dastardly ways. No man their fire withstood, and many a bride, her husband's pride, knew pregnant widowhood. They reached the strand of the Rio Grande at the height of a blazing noon, and to slake their thirst and do their worst, they sought Black Mike's saloon. With many a yell, they were raising hell at that dry gulch hole in the wall. The bar last with a shapely ass was hefting Mike's left ball. The doors flung wide, with purposeful stride, both prick and gun flashed free. According to sex, you bleeding wrecks, you drink or fuck with me. Well, they'd heard of the prick called Dead-Eyed Dick from Maine to Panama, so with scarcely worse than a muttered curse, those natives sought the bar. Dick's face was red, blood rushed to his head, the lust within him burned. He hefted his cock to show the flock, and everyone's asshole squirmed. Down on the floor on top of the whore lay Klondike Mick, ass bare. Dick made a pass at Klondike's ass and missed by just a hair. While Klondike scowled and Dead-Eye growled in a voice like the day of doom. Mick, trailing shit, ran lickety-split to get his ass out of that room.
Good for him.
And the girls all knew of his playful ways, too, and saw the gun twitch in Pete's hand. So 40 horrors pulled down their drawers at Dead-Eyed Dick's command. No time did they waste. In frantic haste, those whores stripped off their clothes. Soon 40 butts were bared to view, and likewise 40 holes. Now 40 rumps and 40 cunts, if you've any wit. Why, you needn't be slick at arithmetic, it adds to 80 tits. Now 80 tits is a glorious sight for a man with a raging stand. It may be rare at Copley Square, but not on the Rio Grande. Now Dead-Eyed Dick was breathing quick and ready for some fun. He took a running start to the nearest tart, and he scored a hole-in-one. He bore that whore to the dusty floor and finished her with a grunt, for in his lustful need for blazing speed, he fairly singed his cunt. He was ready to screw on number 2, when into that harlot's hell there strode a maid who was unafraid, and her name was Eskimo Nell. Now Dead-Eyed Dick, he fucks him quick. He humped another pair. He doubled his stroke. A tart's twat broke as Nell pulled up a chair. He took a 5th and then a 6th as quick as a coyote's wink, and fucked 4 more by the storeroom door while Nell sipped down her drink. By this time Dick had got his prick well into the 11th screw when Eskimo Nell let out a yell. She bawled to him, "Hey, you!" Dick gave a flick of that muscular prick and a girl flew over his head. Then he wheeled about with an angry shout, both face and knob bright red. "Now looky here," he said with a sneer. "I'm in the middle of a screw. Just get in line with those 29 and I'll get round to you." But Eskimo Nell, she took it well. She looked him straight in the eye, then glanced with scorn upon the horn that rose from those hairy thighs. Then she ground her cigarette out on Deadeye's steaming knob. So utterly beat was Mexican Pete that he failed to do his job. It was Eskimo Nell that broke the spell in accents clear and cool. You construct shrimp of a Yankee pimp, you call that thing a tool?
Oh.
If this whole town can't take that down, she jeered at those cowering whores. Well, there's a cunt that'll do this stunt, and it's Eskimo Nell's, not yours. Her garments dropped. All movement stopped. With an air of conscious pride, forth she stood in her womanhood. They saw the great divide. Then she dropped to a tabletop where someone left a glass, and with a flick of her tits, she crushed it to bits between the cheeks of her ass. Then she flexed her knees with supple ease and spread her thighs apart, and gave a nod and said, "You clod, when are you gonna start?" But Deadeye Dick knew more than one trick. He meant to take his time. For a lass like this was orgasmic bliss, so he played the pantomime. He blew his asshole to and fro. His balls, they swelled in size. His mighty dong grew twice as long, reached nearly to his eyes. He rubbed his limb with bathtub gin to make it steaming hot. And to finish the job, he sprinkled his knob from the cayenne pepper pot.
Oh, burn.
Then as a marksman might, he took a sight along the length of his tool, and his wicked grin as he pushed it in was calculated and cool. Now, have you ever seen the pistons gleam on the engine of the CPR, as with the force of 1,000 horse it hauls the railroad cars? Well, if that's so, well, then you know the force that drives that prick, or the work that's done on a non-stop run by the likes of Deadeye Dick. But Eskimo Nell was no infidel, as good as a whole harem, with the strength of 10 in her abdomen and the rock of ages between. She could take the stream of a lover's cream like the flush of a water closet, and she gripped his cock as tight as the lock on the National Safe Deposit. But Deadeye Dick, he wouldn't come quick. He meant to conserve his powers, for if he'd a mind, why, he could grind for 7 solid hours.
That's dedication.
Nell lay a while, then gave a smile. The grip of her cunt grew keener. With a squeeze of her thighs, she sucked him dry, as neat as a vacuum cleaner. She performed this trick in a manner so slick to stand in complete defiance of the principal cause and all the laws that govern sexual science. And now, my friends, we near the end of this copulation's classic. The effect on Dick was sure and quick, and akin to anesthetic. He fell to the floor. He knew no more. The lust within him dead. Not even a shout as his cock fell out, though it was stripped right down to a thread. And Mexican Pete leaped to his feet to avenge his pal's affront. With a jarring jolt of his blue-nosed colt, he shoved it up Nell's cunt. He rammed it hard to the trigger guard and fired 2 times 3. But to his surprise, Nell rolled her eyes and shuddered in ecstasy. "Oh, hell," cried Nell, "you've rung my bell. I'm ready to explode. Oh, Pete, my sweet, can you repeat?" Says Pete, "I shot my load." With a gleam in her eye and the squeeze of her thighs, she gave a roll of her hips. That mighty cunt with barely a grunt spat out the bullets, all 6. And she got to her feet with a smile so sweet and says, "Oh, bully for you. I thought you jerks could show me the works, but I guess I was a fool. I should have known that this was the best you 2 poor pimps could do. I'll have to go to the frozen north to get a real screw." So I'll set forth for the frozen north, where a whore can do no wrong, where only a hump can flaw your rump. That's where they'll sing this song. It's back to the land of the one-night stand, where the nights are 6 months long, where the polar bear whacks off in his lair, and the walrus plays with his prongs. Yes, he'll tell this tale on the Arctic Trail when it gets down to 60 below, where it's so damn cold the condoms are sold wrapped up in a ball of snow. Even the dead sleep to a bed in a land that's frozen through. The skeletons rattle in sexual battle, and the rotting corpses screw. So I'll set forth for the frozen north, the land of the midnight sun. I go to spend a worthy end, for the north is calling come. And next find, my friends, that you intend to sally forth in fun, get Dead-Eyed Dick a peppermint stick, and Pete an elephant gun. Now when a man grows old and his balls grow cold and the tip of his frick turns blue and it bends in the middle like a one-string fiddle, I'd say he was screwed, wouldn't you?